Live, and I think we're live. So let me see.
Yes.
I think we're live. All right. So you want to go ahead and just say a little bit about who you are, um, what makes you uniquely special with respect to conversations to and for professional women struggling with marriage.
Okay. Well, I'm a Pearl Taylor. I'm a licensed professional counselor working in private practice, also a school counselor, educator. So, kind of run the gamut in my professional background, but most of it is about helping and serving. So, in my practice, I have encountered couples that come to me trying to work on the marriage, and then they, one or both decide, yeah, the more I'm understanding about me and this dynamic, this might not be a good fit. Or I've worked with couples that have come to me, and one of them is saying, yeah, this is our last ditch effort. But then after figuring out what the underlying issue has been, they've been able to communicate better and readjust their expectations, because a lot of times those are the things that really derail a relationship is the expectations, and then the reality doesn't meet the expectations, and then we walk around disillusioned and angry, and then we start to believe these things about our partner. He's not this, he's not that, or she's not this, she's not that, when really it's something that we've kind of conjured up based on our own paradigm and the way that we see things. So my goal in my journey has been to walk alongside those women and those couples and those men that have found me and found my practice. um, I reached out to you. We started out on a whole nother thing, but then I was like, I should refer to her, because when people come to me and they're like, yeah, this is it, and I'm like, I got just the attorney for you, and vice versa. You have people that come to you and they're struggling with something, and you refer to me. So I feel like this has been, God ordering our steps and us finding each other and finding that we are in the same place at the same time, trying to do the same thing. So,
Yes, and what I love about, just kind of like honing in on that servant piece. For me in the legal space, most of the time people are reaching out. I'm hearing you say they reach out to you like, okay, this is our last, this is our last ditch effort. So when they come to me, there's dead on arrival. It's it's done, right? And so I am walking through at least what I learned about my practice now, 13 years in family practice. And um, for me, it has been developing a sensitivity to
mhm.
navigate someone through a painful process while providing them that legal advice and insight and counsel. And so I like to consider myself amongst one of the few amongst my colleagues who really do embrace the title of counselor.
Mhm.
um I've seen thousands of divorces, right? And what ends up happening after you see a few hundred of them, they just become case numbers and cases. And no, uh-uh. Everyone is hurting when they're going through this process. Like even when it's like a real like bad situation where maybe someone has broken the law, maybe someone has been physically hurt or harmed,
Mhm.
it's still painful because so many people end up at the divorce attorney and they never imagined that day would come when they stood and they said those vows. And so for me, I just feel like, one of my parts of serving the community is reconnecting that compassion back to the legal process, because we as attorneys, we're
Mhm.
attorney, you're not thinking warm and fuzzy. You're
Like
thinking
facts, ma'am. Facts.
just the facts, ma'am. Yes. And, you know, and I like to explain to people that you have different personality types in this field. You have litigators. Those are the attorneys that everyone sees on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just the facts, people, because in their mind, they're just preparing for trial. They're trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with someone who has my persona, more of the mediator personality, who's thinking about how is this family going to survive once the lawyers and the judge are out,
Mm-hmm.
then there's more of that conscientiousness of reminding my clients and the families that we serve, there are no winners in divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not a win. This is not about anybody winning. And so I personally appreciate your comment about servanthood, because that's what really that's what really resonates with me about you. And, you know, the more we've been having these conversations, the more I really connect with your, you know, kind of like your process. Like we have a legal process, you know, like a framework and analogy that we think through these cases and stuff. And I heard the same thing happening, you know, in terms of our conversations around marriages and relationships, and, you know, professional women who are like on the fence, like, what do I do? I'd love for you to just talk a little bit more about that framework that you shared with me, because it just, for me, in my legal mind, it definitely made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. I know the last time we talked a little bit about almost the unspoken or the unwritten contract, that every time that I accept something and I don't speak on it, I am writing something else extra into that contract. And what ends up happening is women will look up 5-10 years later and they're like, this relationship, this situation, this ain't what I signed up for, not recognizing that every time you didn't call that out, or you didn't communicate a need, or you swallowed it because it was like, well, I don't want no conflict, I don't want no argument. And you fail to effectively communicate with your needs, your wants, your expectations. Then when your partner, you know, he just, you know, living his best life, doing what fits him, what suits him, what you let him get away with. And I hate to say it like that, but when we don't speak on it, that's exactly what do they say? Silence is complicity, I think is the saying. So 10 years in, you look up and you're like, I don't know who you are. You look in the mirror, I don't know who I am. And those dreams and goals that I had maybe in my early 20s, or maybe I got married late, and so I had to adjust my expectations, but I still had that, you know, that fairy tale, that pie in the sky kind of ideal. And when it doesn't match up, one, we're disillusioned at the situation. But then there's that, especially professional women. One, I'm not trying to tell all my friends what's going on in my house. I don't really talk to anybody. I'm holding it in. I'm swallowing it until, you know, you have physical manifestations. Like, why my blood pressure won't go down? Because you holding all this stuff in. Why can't I sleep at night? Because you holding all this stuff in. And then you're still trying to show up at work, still trying to parent, all of the things. And it makes it difficult for women to say, what is best for me? I don't want to implode my home. I don't want my children to have to do I'm at daddy house, I'm at mama house. But sometimes that is what we're left to. But this is the part where you and I feel like really synergize, is providing a support and a place where women can come and just throw it all on the table and say, well, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that, what about this? And from my standpoint, I want to help you, one, figure out, is there something else that you can do? Can you learn to communicate differently? Is a lot of this living in your head because I need it to look like this and it doesn't, and so I don't know what to do with this, as opposed to a paradigm shift? Or maybe I can look at it differently, approach it differently, accept my husband for who and what he is, and stop needing him to be this over here and recognizing that he's this over here. And I'm still getting 80% of what I need May not be what I want all the time, but what I need, and figure out a way forward. Or I need to lay all this out and I need to know if I need to run for the hills, if I need to run, Forest, what order do I need to do this in so that I come out and I'm okay? I've
Yeah.
seen too many women that in the midst of it, the pain is so much, the rejection, the anger with themselves, the way that they've constantly kind of put themselves last, even going through the divorces. I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing. I just want out of this relationship. And then 3, 4, 5 years later, you're like, I could have got half of his 401k. Like, not saying that that's what it is, but I need to be okay. If I gave up a career to raise these kids and now my 401k is down here because I wasn't in the workforce, like, we're talking about equity and parity. And so don't be so hasty to say, I just want out of this, because that's you speaking out of pain and you're not putting your best interest out there and on the table, and it's a part of the discussion. So that's kind of how I see the mental health part of the journey to decide, can I heal in this marriage, or is my healing coming through the dissolution of this marriage? But I'm at a point where I got to do something different because this that I've been doing ain't working.
Yes. And what I see a lot on the divorce side, the legal side, are professional women who, like you said, who do you talk to? For many professional women, you are the person who's the go-to in your circle, in your family. You are the person that everyone else looks up to and comes to for the answers. You're the one who's pulling out your checkbook when a family emergency has popped out. I'm telling my age with checkbook, but you're the one who's making things happen for everyone else. And what you said about she's putting herself last.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see too much. Like, that's the part that breaks my heart as a woman. Yes, I'm a professional, but when you're coming up in here, you are another woman. Mm-hmm. And too often I'm seeing you coming in here. You have been driving the past 200 miles on E with 4 flat tires. Like, how are we doing this, man?
Mm-hmm.
And that care, which is why one of the first conversations that I'm having when I'm talking to someone who's saying, I think I want out. Are you working with a therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some help? Because look, here at Law for Love, you can call me 9 to 5 with your legal questions. Mm-hmm. But some of that stuff, you need to be unpacking with someone who could kind of walk you through a plan of recovering from this brokenhearted situation. Yes, a lot of my counsel is kind of coupled with it because it's life stuff. Family law is, this is the closest thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have to deal with your attitude or your perceptions in order to have a reality check about what the law is able to accomplish for you. Sometimes you're coming in, you're looking for an attorney, looking for me to make choices for you.
Mm-hmm.
Only to find out that I'm No, we want to help you get some clarity. So working with a counselor is going to help you kind of like shed off some of that stuff so that you can make good choices. I'm going to counsel you and I'm going to advise you, but that emotional stuff you're going to be on a roller coaster ride. Like, divorce is like a box of chocolate. You never know from one moment to the next. You're going to be relieved, pissed, angry, like, and so, having that sensitivity to that and then recognizing that, look, this legal side is one piece, is one piece of the team you need in order to have the best counsel and guidance and know that you're making good decisions. You got sounding boards that are like affirming and supporting. And here at our office, I pull out pom-poms. I be shaking pom-poms when You're using your voice. You're making your choices. You're, you
Mhm.
know, you're no longer afraid of what everyone else is going to think or say.
Mhm.
On what you need to do. And yes, we need to look at what's fair. You know, the judge isn't here to punish. The judge is here to say, okay, what's in the pot, and how
Mhm.
can we be fair about this? And so when you go through that process, number one, with the right counsel. Now, I'm not saying like the pit bull in the skirt isn't effective in certain kind of situations. If you have somebody beating you over the head and committing crimes and hiding assets, you may need that
Mhm.
more aggressive style of litigation. But if you're just dealing with, what we usually see, two
Mhm.
people who love each other, but they can't figure out how to keep they can't figure out how to move forward together anymore.
Mhm.
Let's figure out what's fair. Let's help you get some clarity. Let's take a look at it, and let's figure out what can you live with. You know, what how can you give and how can you take,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that on the other side of this process, y'all can figure out how to be co-parents.
Gonna have to. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because you're dissolving the marriage, but when you have children in the mix, this person is always going to be a part of your life in some shape or form. Even if you never talk to them, you have to hand your children off to them at some point, or your children, when they get old enough, they're still going to, you know, go see mama or go see daddy. So, having a healthy, you know, relationship, for lack of a better word, because that's what it still is. You may not want to call it a relationship, but this is a person that I share a child with. So how can we move forward in a way that doesn't use the children as bargaining chips or bludgeons, that they are considered in everything we do, but it's always in love, because that's what we hope is, I can't live with you, you can't live with me, but I don't hate your guts. I just hate it when you leave the drawers open and I stumble over them in the night. Or you leave the corner seat up and I keep sitting down in cold porcelain. Like,
Yes,
it's because sometimes it can be as simple as that
yes,
people just can't navigate how to overlook some things, or how to say, well, if this makes you uncomfortable, I will work doubly hard to try to rectify my behavior, owning my stuff.
yes,
Sometimes people ain't ready for that. So,
yes. And I think another thing that we have in common with how we look at these, struggling marriages, uh,
hmm
the phenomenon of staying for the
for the
kids.
children.
Like,
Hmm
what's really happening to the kids in that situation from your perspective?
They are growing up and seeing one mom, a lot of times, uh, quiet, cowering, or avoidant. They grow up seeing two adults who don't have conversation, who aren't kind to one another. There may not be open hollering and screaming, but the silence is also equally as devastating if children don't see daddy comes in. Hey, Esther. I'm just going to say Esther. Hey,
You picked an
Esther.
oh well, we have some Esters in this generation, but okay, Esther,
Hey, Esther. Hey, Cletus. How you doing? How was work today?
leave it.
He come in, drop his stuff, go upstairs, and mama's over here, cooking, and ain't nobody said nothing. Mama's always the one with the children, daddy seldom is, or I've seen it vice versa, where daddy's having to do everything and mama out in them streets. Kids that grow up in a situation where we just gonna stay together for the kids, they have a lot to unlearn when they get older. And a lot of times they carry a lot of that maladaptive behavior into their own relationships and into adulthood. They don't know what a healthy relationship looks like unless, they got aunts and uncles who they go over their house and they probably come home and be like, they were sitting on the couch together laughing and giggling. She called him when we was out at the store and they had a conversation. That don't happen at my house. So kids know. They know, they just may not speak on it, or they too busy, like they see you and then they back to Roblox or whatever it is they playing over here. They see it, and impacts them as they get older. It does.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the points that really kind of like helps the families that we work with kind of like pull themselves together, kind of get themselves out of being stuck. That love for their children, like that same love for your kids that make you feel like I have to stay because of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you start having an honest conversation, like who knows, all of the circumstances could be different. And I think, you and I, we share the value of wanting to kind of like demystify and take out the shame and the guilt
That.
of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you finally get over what everybody else thinks. You finally stop feeling guilty about being done. You
Mm-hmm.
finally stick to your guns and say, if I'm going to heal, it needs to be away from this man. And now you're being honest with yourself and you're in a position to teach your kids how to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And to now figure out how to approach co-parenting with that same honesty. And I like to bring the kids back into center focus when we're dealing with impasse between the two sides. We're all here because of your love for your kids. And when the graduation comes, I assume both of you are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
When your kids get married, I assume both of you are going to be at the wedding. And perhaps one day y'all will be
Grandparents together. Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to set y'all up to have those, a more respectful co-parenting relationship?
Mm-hmm.
We're legally structuring some boundaries, but this paper can only do so much to dictate life. It could give you a framework, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to figure out how to be human beings with one another. And those are the type of people who stay out of court.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people that's like, the paper says like that. Like, no, don't do that. Like one of my favorite commentaries about a parenting plan is that the court requires it in your divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But the hope is that after y'all sign it, you stick it up under your mattress and you never see it again.
Right. You're not living your life governed by rules. You can be fluid with this. Like, we know what the framework is. We are to share and communicate and have grace with one another. So if I know your turn is this Thanksgiving, but mom and them just moved to the beach and they really want everybody to come to the beach house, can we swap? Oh yeah, go ahead. We'll be all right. That is the vision. But when people are hurt, I'm gonna use whatever I can. So, oh well, Thanksgiving is my holiday, so they'll have to go see the new house at Christmas because we got plans. Knowing good and well you ain't got no plans. You was getting ready to take them kids and Waffle House.
That reminds me, and you shared with me as well how you bring in anecdotes from your personal life when you're supporting your clients and serving your clients. For many years, I would explain to my clients that as a teenage parent, who I was and my son's father was, we figured it out. And because we were so young when we figured it out, my tolerance now, like as an adult, as
right.
Someone who's lived a little bit, my tolerance for using the kids as pawns, I have a very, very short fuse for that. And it's because two kids figured it out. I mean, we figured it out to the point where my son he observed some, ex behavior over the kids in a situation that didn't involve me and his dad, but he was like confused. He was like, I don't get it. And I told him, I was like, oh, sweetie, that's something that happens a lot. Like this with me and your dad, like us all kind of like converging on the restaurant after your graduation, him, his new wife, me, my husband, like that's not everybody. He was like, wait, what do you mean this isn't normal? That we're still family. We don't have that nonsense because he was always in the center of how we dealt with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he could not understand how people put their kids in the middle of their conflict. And so for that reason, my attitude is we can figure this out. If some kids can figure it out,
Right.
surely with the right help, with the right support, with some creativity,
Mm-hmm.
y'all can figure out how to not to put those babies in the middle of this crazy.
Yeah, but it really does take, like you said, that being willing to do the work. Like you said, when they come to you, you clearly this is a hard situation for everybody involved. And so I need some support. I need to have like this one person over here that I can go and just say all the crazy stuff. Let me come say it to my therapist. So when I have to talk to my ex, I've cycled through all of those emotions. So you can't trigger me no more. Cause I already know like all the buttons you like to push. We done talked about it in therapy. And so I've already rehearsed. Like I do that with my clients. Like, okay, let's do a role play. All right, so I'm gonna be him and I want you to practice what you gonna say when the time comes. And sometimes they be like, oh, I don't like doing I say
Practice.
I said, we're going to do this because if you can't do it with me and there should be no emotion here, like I'm not triggering you, we don't have no past, no history. If you can't do it with me, I can only imagine when you get in the situation, you're going to be all worked up and your nerves going to be bad and you're going to have that fight or flight going on and you're going to go from 0 to 100 again. You're going to say some stuff that I done told you to quit telling everything. Get over there and I ain't want to do it no way. So practice with me now.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, people have come back to me and was like, I'm so glad I got to say that when you said it right too.
I love it. I love it. And the other piece too, right? So you have all this professionalism. We've been trained, we've been licensed. We're not spring chicken.
Mm-hmm.
But the other piece that we've both seen so many people really wrestling with is the faith piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a huge one, especially in our community. Because one, they tell you, you don't need to go no therapy, just tell Jesus.
Yes.
When you get married, you stood up before God in a church full of folks and said, till death do us part. So we gonna stick with that. And I don't know. I err on the side of if this is unhealthy and I'm sick, sad, rejected, and busted, and I'm feeling all these things in this situation, I have to say, he said he come that I might have life more abundantly. This ain't abundant life. And I can respect if you feel like you made a mistake because everybody gets with somebody for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So if this is not your lifetime, I say you do what you got to do and you have a talk with Jesus because he can forgive murderers and adulterers. He can forgive all them things. So that's why I err with that one. I'm not one of those people that's gonna tell you, honey, we're going to stay in the marriage. You do what makes you happy and makes sense to you. And my job is to support you through it because I ain't got no dog in the fight. But at the end of the day, healthy families make healthy communities, and a healthy community makes a healthy nation. So my goal is to help people heal one woman at a time, one man at a time. That trickles down to the children and it's generational. We talk about generational wealth. Well, what about generational mental health? That is my goal.
Yes.
One at a time, a family at a time, changing outcomes, changing lives. That's
Yes.
I do what I do.
Yes. And for me, from the pastoral perspective, I know that I part ways with many other faith leaders because the default position of the church
Mm-hmm.
is God hates divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not about to blow this up into a sermon or, a Bible study about what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those sayings that has been placed on people with a burden that is not, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what that means spiritually. Like, where did that come from in the Bible? Like, where is that verse, and who was involved in this conversation? And so for me, in the conversations that I have with other faith leaders about divorce, is this: if the only thing that you're offering your parishioners or your faith community is God hates divorce, and they can't figure this thing out, either someone's going to jail or someone is going to go and run out here into the outside of the faith community, and they're going to be treated that they're a dollar sign to most other legal professionals. They're not getting the pastoral care. It's almost as though the doors of the church have been closed on you for moving forward on this path. And it's kind of like, hats off to ministries that are offering divorce care and caring for their communities who are going through divorce, because what about the person who didn't file it? What about the person who got hit with some papers? What happens to them? You can't God hate divorce people into oblivion.
Right. So I can choose this, but now I'm punished. I'm like, this wasn't my choice, but I'm punished because God hates divorce. Yeah.
So for me, my perspective is that this is where there's an opportunity for the faith community to do more serving, because we do want to see families intact. We do want to see people, remain married and happily ever after. We want that. But because we know that now the church is outpacing people who don't even claim a faith when it comes to divorce, this is a unique situation that we can't just ignore, stick our head in the sand, act like it's not happening, and not provide that care and guidance from a legal perspective and from a faith perspective. And so to me, that's the other layer of what you and I, in terms of our care for people, we're not throwing your faith away. You're a woman of faith like I am. My Bible is everything to me. But what we don't do is just cobble together some rules, throw them at you, and you just got you just got to figure that out. No, let's unpack this. Let's unpack the guilt. Let's unpack the shame. Let's figure out, is this the unforgivable sin? No. And helping people to start a new chapter without all that extra layer
of guilt and shame. Yeah, because that's what that is. I'm already feeling some kind of way about my choices, my decisions. I chose this. Why didn't I see this? That's already gonna play a part. But then now I got to tell my church, and and the pastor done already said. And so you're right. I may just walk away from my church because I can't live under that level of scrutiny and all the mothers coming over talking about, honey, you should come talk to me. I'm gonna help you stay married. No, I didn't ask you to help me stay married. I didn't ask you for that. I need support.
You just reminded me of a funny from church. You just reminded me. I have to share it. So I was at intercessory prayer with my mom on a Monday morning. It was 20 years ago. Saturday morning prayer. And one of the prayer leaders said, everybody go around and pray for anybody who in here single that their spouse will come. My mother went to go pray for one of the sisters who was divorced. And her sister shook her head and she said, real low to my mama, don't you pray for him to come back.
That sounds like some trauma. She was like, oh Lord, no, please.
You ain't gonna pray him back up in my life.
well-meaning is all it is. It's well-meaning, but everything ain't for everybody.
Oh my goodness, who said you can't be happy by yourself?
I mean, the crazy thing is, I think, like the Bible says that if you are married, don't seek to be loosed, and if you are single, don't seek to be bound. Like,
Yes.
learn the art of contentment. That's what the Bible says, and I don't think that's like a life plan, but I think it's saying in whatever state you find yourself, find a way to be content. And I think it's, like a married woman looking over and seeing all the fun, or how the single woman can just go and make her own choices and decisions. Well, yeah, that may be enviable, but then at the same time, the single woman's looking over at the married woman talking about, oh, and I want children, and it must be nice to have a husband. Grass is green on both sides. Yeah. Stay in your own yard.
Yeah, isn't that something? The curly hair folk want the straight hair, and the straight hair folk want the curly. We always want what we don't already have.
What we don't have, yeah.
I love that we have crossed paths in this way, and I'm really excited for this very special group of women that will have the opportunity to serve. So we have a limited capacity because we desire this thing to be intimate. We desire it to be safe. And we are getting real to help people find healing. And so I'm so blessed and honored to partner with you in this space. And I think that we're going to be able to make an immense impact on this very, very special group of women.
Yeah. Starting out January 2024, I think it is the perfect time. A lot of times people get to the top of a year and this is my year for fill in the blank. Hopefully this is your year for answers, whatever the answer is. Because this is that I've been on this treadmill, I've been on this cycle of I'll get right up to the window and be like, yep, this is it. And then, I don't know, he apologizes, or, you're waiting on some sign, like you put out your fleece and you want it to come back wet. It came back dry and you're like, okay, well, I put it in the wrong spot. Like you just keep on looking for that thing that's going to tell you this is the sign you've been looking for. And sometimes God works that way. Sometimes God said, I've already given you all the answers you need. They're already right here. Get quiet, get still, and get some support so you can unpack what I've already told you and shown you, so then you can know what that decision is.
Yes. And you know me, we already talked about the legal work that I do spiritually with identifying those contracts with manipulation and control, and restoring your personal power by identifying the legal aspect of how did I end up in this situation where I'm being manipulated or I'm being controlled. And so this is going to be a good time. It's going to be great. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited to be working with you.
I am too. And I won't tell too much, but I just thought it was really interesting. I looked back at my text messages today and I was like, it hasn't even been a month since you reached out to me and we had our whole little conversation, and look where we are. So that's how I always tell people, we are always right where God wants us to be. Yes. We started this conversation back in March or April, and you was doing your thing and I was trying to do my thing over here. And we had to live through the rest of the year and have that set of experiences. So God brought us right back here. And he's like, all right, now.
Absolutely. It's all working out, because look, just even this whole recording thing, and
this is both of our worst nightmare. We trying to live behind the scenes, in the shadows, off the screen.
Can I go back behind the scenes?
Can I stay over there and just talk? No.
Yes.
Come on.
Like, so we're not going to keep hiding the treasure. Right? We're letting the world know that we're out here We're seasoned. We care. We're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We're discreet. Your business is not going to be all out here in the streets. And when you have made that choice that you're tired, we're here to help midwife some healing into your life. And so um hope that gives you a sneak preview of what this duo is up to with Do I Stay? Do I Go?
Oh no.
We'll see you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shar. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, April.